Hey everyone, welcome back, and today we're just going to be talking about your camera basics. Your camera basics being your exposure diagram, your triangle, and it's something I learned pretty early on, and I've been sort of diving into it this week so that I can make this video for you guys. And your exposure diagram pretty much consists of your ISO, your aperture, and your shutter speed. Those three things together. I'll put a diagram up on screen, and what they entail, what they do for your shots, the different aspects that they can change. And so today we're just going to be going into that and having a look at that. And so just let me know what you guys think of the new studio, the new space. Last week we were outside, and let me know what you think of this, anything I should change. Obviously it's a very beginner setup, still this arm from, as I said in my last video, the old gaming days. Just getting started with videography can feel a little bit overwhelming when it comes to your settings. And I mean, there's the auto mode, but you know, it looks good, but it's not what it can get to. Get the hell out of auto mode. It can often feel like speaking a foreign language if you don't know what's going on. I'm here today just to explain to you the basics of your camera settings. But don't worry, by the end of this video, you'll be shooting like a pro, and you'll be getting that cinematic look you'll want to. First of these settings would be ISO. First, all three of these settings, ISO, aperture, and shutter speed, control something called exposure. That's how bright or dark your image looks, your video looks. I'll put the exposure triangle up on screen now, so you can see that the difference in the ISO, shutter speed, and aperture. Let's start with ISO. ISO controls how sensitive your sensor is to light, how sensitive the sensor inside your camera. Depending on what camera you have, it can range anywhere from 100 ISO to 30,000 ISO. I'm just using that as an example. New day cameras are pretty good when it comes to the ISO levels and everything. They go pretty crazy. And a low ISO like 100 or 200 is less sensitive and is great for outdoor shots when those bright and the sun is out and when it's going strong. A high ISO is around 1600 to 3200. It's more sensitive. It's good for low light, but there's a catch. A high ISO adds grain, or as some people call it, noise. Your image then gets filled with grain and noise because your sensor is now very sensitive to light. So in the dark sections of it, it gets very grainy because it's trying to hunt for that light. It's trying to find that light. That's why you keep your ISO as low as possible. Because the lower your ISO, the more crispy, the more clean your image looks, the more crystal clear it is for that professional look. Now moving on to aperture, your f-stop. F-stop, you're pretty much looking at, f-stop is measured in f1.8, f2.8, f3.2, for example. Those are relatively wide open ones, but then you also go up all the way to f15, f16. A common one is f11. And aperture is how wide your lens is open. The lower your f-stop number, the wider open your lens is to let in more light. And the higher your aperture number, the smaller your lens gets. And that pretty much focuses everything in the frame. Where the lower ISO number pretty much focuses on the subject, and it gives that bokeh effect, the blur that everyone wants in the background. Videographers tend to love the wide apertures for interviews or cinematic videos. Now let's talk shutter speed. Shutter speed controls how long your image is exposed to light in video. Shutter speed also affects your motion blur. So to get that natural motion blur, if you're shooting in 24 frames per second, you're going to want to set your aperture to double that. You're going to set your shutter speed to double your frame rate to get as much as the most natural look in your image. For example, if you're shooting in 24 frames per second, you're going to want to set your aperture to 1/50. A good rule of thumb is use a shutter speed that is double your frame rate. If you're shooting in 24 frames per second, then set your shutter speed to 1/50. That gives a natural motion blur that feels cinematic. I'll put some on-screen demonstrations. If you go too high, motion scene tends to get a bit jittery. If you go too low, it tends to get a bit smeary, if that makes sense. I'll put some examples on screen. Quick word on autofocus. Most modern cameras tend to have a really good autofocus. As you'll see on your camera, there's somewhere that says AF-C. That means the camera tracks the subject's focus in real time. Continuous. The C stands for continuous. But autofocus isn't perfect. Sometimes it hunts or focuses on the wrong thing. Consider looking at focusing manually. How do you balance all three? ISO, aperture, and shutter speed. Start by setting your frame rate, then your shutter speed.